And here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the LFC transfer room. It was meant to be Stephen tonight. I'm going to do my absolute best to fill in for him. I know you all love Stephen. I will do what I can to fill that void in the meantime. But I'm not alone. I've got Willem with me. Willem, thank you so much for joining on. And we also have Hassan, who's going to be joining soon. He's just having a few internet problems, similar to Paul a few weeks ago. So, yeah, we'll see how we get on with that. But yeah, Will, you're good, man. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's having a
All
sip.
fine, all fine. A bit tired. Looking forward to the weekend.
Sorry, I caught you out then as you were having a drink. I didn't mean that.
Fine, mate. I'll just be in between it the entire time. And especially now it's between you and me right now, mate. So now I have to really be on it with a drinking break.
Well, you know what? I'll give you a minute because I'm going to waffle for a second. We've got a good few numbers of topics to go through today. The transfer market is booming at the moment. A lot of big news coming in and out of the club. And we spoke about it numerous times, and we've talked about on many occasions is the centre-back role in this team. We're very bare bones at the moment. But just before we get into that, if everyone could please make sure to hit like and subscribe buttons. We are close to 10k subscribers. The number it's getting closer and closer. If we can get another few during the stream, that'd be absolutely fantastic. Now, centre back, as I say, it's an area we've all focused on. It's an area we're all talking about at the moment. Van Dijk and Canate seem to have sealed down the back spots. There's no more Joel Matip because of injury. It's chopping and changing. Who's coming in? Who's going out? And apparently, the big news is Inacio. He is holding out for one of three clubs. It's between Real Madrid, Manchester United, and Liverpool. Now, Willem, I want to get your thoughts on just Inacio in general. How much do you like this player, or are you not too much of a fan? What's your thoughts on him?
I mean, I'm not to the level of where it's Stephen, it's his absolute favorite dream prodigy, where Inacio is the one and the only one that we should be getting at any time. I do think he's a fantastically good player. But I think, for example, what we're ideally still looking for at the back is someone who could play centre back, but ideally also the left back role. Though maybe that might be shifting a bit now to more of a right back, seeing as we will have to see what happens with Trent as well, because that slowly seems to be looking like he's going to be playing in midfield more and more. So I think it's the versatility point, really, which is also going to be an important one. And Inacio's a good player, but he's not a centre back that can necessarily. I mean, he'll play left back if he has to. I don't doubt that, but it's not one of his specialties necessarily to also really slot in that left back role, where we could potentially then end up inverting Trent. But I do think he is technically still one of the best options out there for us if we were to go out and get a centre back.
I mean, he's price tag wise, there's a lot of things sort of being branded around at the moment. So apparently the rumor is it looks around 52 to 55 million euros. Or actually no, £1 million, that is, tell a complete lie to you. 52 million. And according to the reports, it's saying we're going to wait till summer. Now, it's a bit of a gamble because obviously he's a player who's highly in demand. Real Madrid are looking for reinforcements. Man United's are linked with Araujo at the moment. Araujo from Barcelona, so they're clearly in the market for someone. Is it a thing if we are going for someone like that? Do we need to do it now, or do you think we should maybe hold off until summer when there's a bit more funds in the club, when we've sold a few people?
I mean, ideally for me, but I am someone who likes to put themselves in the best position possible. With our current injuries, I would have the preference of us getting one already in January. However, what I think is the more likely thing that will end up happening is probably that we will leave it out till the summer and really bank on the fact that that obviously Trent won't be really picking up that many more injuries, that Canate will probably have a better fitness rate going out throughout the season. And obviously, kind of assuming that we, apart from the people who are currently out, that we won't be having too many major injury issues. And yeah, I do kind of think the club will probably be banking on that, and then going for the summer, like in the summer, going for their actual target. Especially because January transfers are just so hard. There's a lot of clubs that will raise the price by about 20, 30 million to what they will eventually move them on for in the summer. So I think that is probably going to be the more likely approach from Liverpool in general.
Like, there's a comment saying Inacio signed a new contract with Sporting in August that commits his future in Lisbon until 2027. However, I'm of the sort of, and please jump in with your opinion on this afterwards, mate. I think contracts are not worth the paper they're signed on in football nowadays. Luis Suarez signed a new contract with us like a month or two before he left us back in 2014. Um, I think contracts are just to sort of ensure that the club is getting a profit from the player, so that he's not going for cheap or for free, and just to give the player a bit of extra money towards the end, just to sort of, in case he does decide he wants to stay. I don't know what your thoughts on contracts are with regards to stuff like this.
No, spot on, mate. I agree. I think that's exactly where the kind of the direction you're headed to now with those contracts. But I think it's more the case of it's more the case for players who play outside of the Big Six in England, for example, and obviously it kind of depends on the level of the league that they're in. So in Portugal, obviously, Sporting are a top club in Portugal. They are always standard top three. But they obviously know that their market, that they can't compete with some of the other markets around in Europe. So I think also for them, it's a way of guaranteeing of, look, we don't get the same revenues as these other big clubs in Europe. We can still get a good amount out of this without having, because I think as well, a lot of the big clubs have learned from the transfers like Enzo Fernandez from Benfica to Chelsea, where you're going for a relatively unproven player after a couple of amount of months. Not a lot of people outside of the Portuguese league obviously do too much, but Argentinians. And looking back on it now, well, would you ever say that Enzo Fernandez is worth 120 million euros? Absolutely not. So I think it's also kind of to do with that, more of a way that big clubs won't let them get fooled anymore, and it makes an exit easier for the smaller clubs, whilst also getting their guarantees from it.
100%. I might at least say has just signed a new contract with Palace, but we all know he's going to be going in the summer. Let's be honest. It's ensuring that the club, like you mentioned, is getting a financial benefit from what is essentially their asset. They don't want to lose big players for cheap fees, and I just think contracts nowadays are just a financial obligation more than they are an actual contractual basis to keep players at the club. Like, this isn't like it was a good number of years ago where players stay at clubs for prolonged periods of time. Clubs just want to make the most money possible, and signing these contracts is just to ensure that happens. Like, there's a lot of good comments coming in about it. Everyone, please do make sure to hit comment. We are going to go through them. I'm going to save some for towards the end, and I'll bring up any ones like I just did them with Helios or Helo Mattis. I'm so sorry.
It's like the German way where it's like high law, but
is it high law?
I think so, but I'm not sure either, mate. It's an assumption.
It's fine. I'm happy with it. But yeah, I mean, Inacio. So like statistically, and I understand stats can be misleading. I use them as a sort of basis, a jumping off point. He's a solid player. 1.49 tackles per game, 1.49 interceptions, 2.41 clearances, 1.99 aerials per game. Now he's a bit more of a ball playing centre back, and that's something that this Liverpool system nowadays is really not in need of, but it's something we do look for. But is there anyone that you could think would maybe, before we carry on with Inacio, is there anyone who you think could maybe fit the system a bit better than him?
The one that I like the most, but it's more because of the profile we've been kind of looking for as a centre back since the summer. For me, is Hincapié, but also due to Hincapié really being able to play as a left back as well. Like, he's a bit more pacey than Inacio. And like I'd say, his passing is definitely not as good as Inacio, because that's one of Inacio's best traits is his forward passing, which isn't necessarily the case with Hincapié, but Hincapié would be another option, as in if he does have to play that left back role with Trent inverting from the right back, he is fast enough to cover everything on that left hand side and can also go up in the build up down the left wing when you've got Jones and Diaz, or Jones and Jota. I mean, I'm automatically assuming Jones is going to be playing on the left every time now, but obviously there's some other players that could be coming in. But but yeah, so I think more ideally in what we're looking for versatility wise and how they can play both roles, I do think I would prefer going for Hincapié, but I think Hincapié might be even more expensive eventually than Inacio would even end up being. And if not, and the other option would be if we're purely going for a centre back based on potential and that can learn off Van Dijk for a bit, then I would be looking at that Lenny Euro kid from the Lille coming in, the 18-year-old who's about 6'5" and like he's got like the sideshow bob hair a bit like David Luiz used to have back in the day.
We spoke about him the other night actually, and there was a bit of a sort of we were like, oh, it's expensive for a young player, but it could be one of those ones that if you don't sign him for that price now, he could be worth quadruple that in like a year's time. So we definitely did discuss him. And you mentioned there with Inacio, like his passing's actually statistically, in European football, is in the top 95% for passes. He has 89 passes per game with a pass completion rate of 89%, 8.61 progressive passes, 1.77 progressive carries, 0.6 take-ons a match. Like, for a centre-back, that's ridiculous. There's midfielders who can't do that. So in that regard, he seems like he'd be a great fit. But is 52 too much for someone like that? Or is it a case of with Real Madrid looking at him and Man United looking at him, the price is only going to get more expensive, so we should sort of jump while the iron's hot, so to speak, or strike while the iron's hot. Sorry, not jump.
Yeah,
but
I got what you mean, mate. I mix them up between the three languages I speak all the time, the expressions. So don't worry, I vaguely got where you went to it. I mean, technically, he's already gotten more expensive because he hadn't signed the contract till just after the summer transfer window. Because his release clause, I believe, if I remember correctly, was either 40 or 42 million pounds over the summer. And then they increased it for over time. Again, I'm not sure. Yeah, wait, hold on. I think previously set at 45 million euros. That's the one. So that, and then after that, the clause got raised. At the end of the day, I think you're going to be having this problem anyway, because if we're honestly looking at transfers nowadays, they're just bonkers. We're playing like any club is gonna, if they want a top player, not even from a big club, they are just gonna have to, and they're just gonna have to cough up big if they're in the category of best three players from a middle table team, maybe even bottom, like relegation fighting teams. If you want to get their best players, I mean, look at Madison now. Madison was even going for, what was it, 42, 43 million pounds in the end, which was from a relegated Leicester. So the market's going to be going crazy anyway. So I think anyone's going to be overspending for players at this point. So you are probably better off if they have got a release clause where you can just get the cut price and that's it. You probably are better off doing that, because negotiations nowadays, clubs can just go, well, he's worth this to us, so we're going to start with 110, make your way down. Maybe we accept at 95.
Right, just before we carry on, we are going to get the third man in here. Here he is. Hello, Hassan. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Sorry about the. We've started without you, but we'll catch you up. Just for everyone, this is Hassan. Everyone, please make sure that you leave in the comments just saying hello. Give them some stick for being late. We don't like late. We're like school here. We're not big fans of it, but we'll let them off.
Yeah.
You've got the tension, mate. You're going to have to stick 15 minutes after us. You're going to have to end it myself.
I have so many problems, but I'm back.
It's fine. Honestly, don't worry about it. Look, if Jadon Sancho can be late and go to Dortmund, you can be late and come to the FC transfer room. It's fine. Right. But we're going to carry on. I want to get your thoughts actually on this, Hassan. So we've been talking about Inacio. We've gone over the price, the way he plays, would he fit the system? What's your overall thoughts on him? And would you say, and actually, what's your thoughts on him? And if it's not him, who would you be going for in this market? Who's the best option for you?
It's interesting because now we have linked with him for a long time now, but it looks like it won't happen in this window. It will be in the upcoming summer window. So for now, I think we'll sticking by Kwanzaa, who's improving day by day, and we'll see how it ends up and what the future holds for Matip. So I think we'll see at the end of the year. Now, I think if we'll sign someone, it will be right back, in my opinion.
You mentioned Kwanzaa there, actually. That's a really good point. It's going to go into a topic we're going to discuss later, but what is should we be looking to younger players to come into this squad? And I'll keep it with you, Hassan, for now. Should we be looking at younger players to bring into this squad to develop them for the future, or is it a case of we need someone immediately for now, just straight away, who can just instantly go into that squad? And we've got Van Dijk and Kanate, who are arguably the two best centre backs in the league, or what, two of the best? Like, what's the fix with that regard?
Uh, I think we should, as our policy has always been, young players coming in and we develop them. And as we have two already established center backs, and we have Gomez as well, who will be there. So we can cover that place up, and Gomez can be deployed right wing, left wing, and on the right side or the left side. And for me, we should see someone who is young but hungry, and he's on the verge on becoming a team player for us a long time with Konza. I think we should be looking left-sided, because now all the players we seems to be linked with are the right footers. There's a shortage of left footers. That's why maybe links of Colwell is also popping up again and again. So we'll see. I think we'll go for. We are searching for someone who is left-footed.
Well, I mean, how important is that balance in terms of strength? Before we carry on with the player, I mean, what is the vital importance in having that left-footed centre back for us? Why is it so longed for by Liverpool fans?
Because I think you can kind of see it with Gomez playing left back lately,
Yeah,
where if we have,
for
oh sorry, but like as in if we if you look at Gomez lately playing at left back in our build-up
yeah,
play,
carry
you
on.
see that he constantly has to cut inside onto his right foot, and if you can do that for a period of time as a temporary replacement, but obviously in the long term, if you have too much cutting inside from the back line whilst playing in footy, you're really going to struggle getting your build-up play, like struggle to make your build-up play more fluid. And I think that's more or less more of the obsession with having a left-sided centre back or a left-footed centre back, just purely more on the ability throughout the build-up. Again, that's my assumption though on it. I think in general that is probably why we're more looking at a left-footed centre back than a right-footed centre back. But then again, I don't really mind at the end of the day as long as they're good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand the whole. I do understand it. I feel like we're sort of maybe focusing so much on getting a left-footed player at the back line that we're sort of prioritising that over other areas of the pitch that are just as important, if not more important. And Paul makes a good point here. We're the only top six club without a left-footed centre back. That's true, but at the same time, I mean, it's just I think there's more vital priorities. I do understand the need for it, and I'm sort of waffling with it, but I'd rather sign a great centre back who can defend rather than someone who we bring in more specifically just because he's good at the ball on his left foot. I mean, Hassan, can I get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, if you look at our squad, we have shortage of left footers. Only Salah, Robertson, and Simikas are left footed. So
Elliot.
maybe I think we need some, for the balance sake, maybe it's a midfielder or someone or a right left winger who is a left footer. So maybe for the balance of the team, we need some additions to play on the left side. That's what I think. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, and like we said, Inacio is just one of those ones who he keeps coming up and up. Same with Tadibo, same with Hincape, same with Colwill, and it just seems to be in a bit of a merry-go-round. Like who we're going to get is sort of up in the air. I personally, I think signing a centre back is going to be important, but I would much rather sort of focus on other areas of the pitch. I think we've got some players who can play centre back, whereas, say, the number 6, for example, we are having temporary players fill that gap, and we could maybe do with someone, other than Endo. I don't know. I think because we've discussed basically every centre back under the sun at this point, it's just anyone we get, I'm happy. I'll trust Klopp's system. Now, there's Jen asking what's the news on Mo. That is going to be the next topic that we speak about. But just before we get into that, if everyone could, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Almost at 10k subscribers now. So if everyone could just please hit the subscribe button, it really, really is appreciated. Now, Mo Salah playing in AFCON, playing for Egypt, and he's gone off injured. Now, from what we understand, it was a hamstring injury. Nothing more has come out really. Klopp said that he's going to be getting assessed just to see how bad it is. But he did look like he was in considerable pain. He was limping off. He was walking, which was a good sign. But it does seem to be bad. And hamstring injuries are one of those weird ones where it could be a week, it could be 2 months. There's no way of knowing. Like Willem, and there's 2 parts to the question. The first one I'll ask is, does this sort of prove that these mid-season tournaments are just nothing but a detriment to the domestic game in a way? Because we're already playing enough games.
Sorry, I thought there was a follow-up question coming into it as well.
No, sorry, I'm breaking it down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn about it because at the same time, we have actually been used to AFCON being always in the winter season every 2 years. And then obviously the Asian Cup, actually due to Asia's, like some of the countries in Asia finally getting a bit of a higher status in football, like Japan, like North Korea, like these other countries, the Asian Cup is now also becoming a bit more of a theme. However, at the same time, that only does get played once every 4 years. And at the end of the day, whilst, yes, I do agree to it as well, I think it's also important with kind of those 2 tournaments specifically as well, to remember that if they play it in the summer, due to the locations that they're at, the temperatures are just so high and the conditions to play in are just so ridiculous that I also understand why they do it in that in the manner that they do. Whereas on the other point with the World Cup last year throughout the middle of the season, now that really did end up having a long-term effect on domestic football. I think now mostly what we're getting is it's more of a catch-up from last season as well. And I think you can just see that in general with, if you look at every club, like normally we were the ones, because we played so many games and club likes to have a relatively smaller squad than the other teams. We'd get this occasional period or in between seasons after we've had a really good season and we've gone all the way and played many games, start off the next season, and all of a sudden 7 of our players are injured. 4 might be coming back at the end of the month. The others might be coming back in 2 months or later even. And I think now slowly, because all the other teams are suffering from the same issues now, but more due to having these competitions being played throughout it and more games being added on, that you now see it as more of a general problem. At the end of the day, I mean, look, Klopp's been complaining about it for 4, 5, 6 years now. And I think only this year now, because of people having it happen to them, everyone else is jumping on that bandwagon, which is also why Klopp is more agitated about it every time he gets asked about it. Which, fair enough, I would be fuming if I'd been talking about for 5 years. Everyone ignored me, and on the 6th year, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, no, we need to play less games. We need to take care of the players." You know, I'd be there going like, "Fuck you, mate. I've been saying it for 6 years." Oh, sorry, wait, I forgot on the swearing part. I don't know if it is. My bad. But like, you know, so I understand the frustration from it, but I'm also kind of like, you know, football's made its bed, so now we're gonna have to lie in it because we've had one guy doing it, but if the other 19 have decided to ignore the problem all this time, just for their own benefit in the meantime. I don't see how all of a sudden it's going to radically change now.
Well, it happens loads. I mean, like VAR, for example, we had the Tottenham game where we were robbed, and then everyone's like, "Oh, Liverpool having a whinge, Klopp having a whinge," and then it happens to their clubs, and suddenly it's like, "Oh God, like this is affecting us now." And you're right, and I think and Hassan, I'll get your thoughts on this as well. Actually, like the volume, the sheer quantity of football being played now. You've got mid-season tournaments. There's 4 competitions that you're in. There's 10 minutes added time to each half, essentially, which is another 20 minutes of football where they're expected to play more. It's a more athletic, energetic game. I mean, is it a shock that Salah, who in his time at Liverpool has only missed, I think it's 3-4 games due to injury, is now injured again, is injured this season now? I mean, is it purely the matches are catching up to him, or is it just a fluke one-off thing that just could have happened to anyone? Hassan is very quiet.
Can you hear us or not?
Hassan, can you hear me? Yeah. I don't think any sounds coming out of your...
Yeah, can't hear you, mate.
No. Right. We're gonna I'm gonna carry on. Hassan, when you get your mic work, like if as soon as everything works, just speak and we'll go back to it for you.
Just shout throughout it, mate. We'll shut up and then we'll let you go, Hassan. All right. Well,
there we go.
There we go.
Technical problems. Like, see, this is what happens when I take over from Steve. It all goes to pot, and I'm never doing it again, Steve. Honestly, if you're watching this, this is what happens when I take over. AFCON is a pain in the arse. However, I understand Mo wants to play for his country. Asia Cup is good, but right in the middle of the season. However, Had Willem is correct about the heat and exhaustion. Absolutely. The World Cup, like you mentioned, that was one that sort of continued, that had to be played when it was, but I don't know. It just feels like there's enough football as is at the moment. And for us who are in 4 tournaments, and like the season we nearly did the quadruple, Salah had AFCON on top of that as well. Then we had, the summer break wasn't very long, and it just feels a bit too much. I mean, Hassan, is there too much? I mean, it's a bit of a daft question, but is there too much football being played at the moment?
Yeah, and I think from the next season, I think the format for Champions League is also changing. There will be more games in Champions League as well. So
2 more games. Yeah. Sorry, I did the European one.
Trying,
I got to do this
because
one, yeah. Sorry.
but because of the money it's generating, so everyone is getting greedy, and these TV deals are more and more companies are coming in, so they want more football, and this is why we are seeing that more competition, that Nations League and all that, international games, friendlies. So players are maybe getting frustrated, but uh, for this, the only solution is bigger squads, because I don't think they will cut down the games.
And you mentioned there about, and I want to keep it with you, Hassan, because I've got a sort of a counterpoint to it, I suppose. But we're saying we need bigger squads, which means we need more players, which means we need more wages, which means the club has to earn more money, which means we have to play more football, and it's counterintuitive. I mean, is there any competitions that you think, and we will go back to Mo Salah, I promise, but is there any competitions that you think should be scrapped that is just a bit more unnecessary, or any rules that you change? Like I personally would get rid of the 10 minutes at a time. I don't see the point. It's never bothered me before. The sort of the missed football I'm getting in a match, I've never noticed it, if I'm honest. Is there anything you'd get rid of?
Is it happening again, or
It's like it's the best impression of.
of a statue?
I'm pretty sure. I think that's a Harry Maguire impression. Like he's not moving. He's stationary. I mean, okay. I'll put the question to you then, Willem. While Hassan's until someone
Yeah.
says Simon says can move. What is there anything that you'd scrap or anything you'd get rid of in this sort of in the footballing landscape?
I actually disagree on your take about the extra time. I'm a massive fan of the extra time being added on, but I think it also has to do I do have to admit the extra time has been a bit less of a problem in the Premier League in general, because the Premier League in general it's more physical. You don't get a lot of players wasting time on purpose. Whereas, for example, me living in Spain, I've been used to watching La Liga now for quite a bit. And there's a reason why I can't watch La Liga, because the amount of complaining to the ref, diving on the floor, rolling around, just to make it like taking too long to grab the ball for a throw in, everything of that normally just wouldn't get recovered throughout a game. And then teams like, for example, I mean, there's a to be fair, this season they have been more attacking, but there's a reason why I called Atletico Madrid the Antichrist of football for a long time, because honestly, they were just horrible to watch. They would just defend, sit back the entire time, hope they go on the counter, hit a 1-0, and then in the meantime, just either make fouls, waste time, roll around on the floor, and that would all get lost into it. So I am actually a big fan of sticking to the extra time, because it's a way of saying you can waste all the time you want, mate. It's coming back anyway. And then like that, you just kind of just get rid of the whole problem. Then again, for example, Van Basten, the Dutch legend, he actually has a suggestion for it, where he says, if you look statistically at a game, the ball is in play for about 60 minutes. So what he suggested doing is making 2 halves of 30 minutes. Every time the ball's out of play, there's a foul, you stop the timer.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense, stopping it. But then does that not sort of then, is that still not the same thing essentially? Like it's adding that time on because the time is paused, yeah, but that's no different than having the 10 minutes added on at the end because they're still playing.
I mean, yeah, technically. I mean, to be fair, he did make the suggestion before we had the extra amount of added time coming in. And I haven't heard him too much now talk about it, because obviously this new extra time rule coming in and stuff and everything. And about the whole thing on scrapping competitions, well, the thing is as well, one thing we haven't even considered yet, along with the new Champions League format coming in, is that also we're going to get a Club World Cup coming into the summer as well now, apparently every 2 years, which is going to be made out of 32 teams. And they're going to try and put that out throughout the summer to kind of, it's also kind of a way to get them to bin off these friendly tournaments that they do throughout the summer, and then make them play another serious tournament in between. So I'd be the first one saying, scrap that tournament. Why are we playing it? If we're looking domestically at everything, I mean, if we're going to have an honest conversation here about it, the one competition that you would probably look at scrapping is probably the League Cup, because to be honest, there are very few countries in general that have 2 domestic cups, and the FA Cup just includes every part of English football into it, whereas the League Cup obviously limits itself to is it up to League 2 only or League 1? I don't know exactly how far back the League Cup exactly.
It's League 2 upwards, where the FA Cup's got like the Conference League and the Vanarama National League. Well, that is Conference League, but bits like that.
Yeah, and I think at that point, like, I mean, look, I'm not saying, obviously, especially with how we're doing in the League Cup and stuff and everything, I want us to win it this year and I want us to be in there. But if that conversation is to be had where we will have to scrap a certain competition just to make sure that we're not overdoing the players and that we can actually, have the squads at the current size they're in, that we don't have to be forced to literally expand these squads into an extra 6, 7, 8 players to, at least try and have a successful season. And then, those are the conversations that need to be had. But again, it's the same as in a load of sports. Unfortunately, cash is king, and cash is going to rule. So it is what it is at this point. I don't think, as much as we'll have a voice against it, bar if it's something extreme like the Super League, I don't think there's going to be much movement against it that can be done, unfortunately.
No, I mean, football's turned from the sport of the working man to the plaything of the rich. And I think financially, there's billions and billions of pounds to be had from football, and everyone knows that, and no one's naive to it. It's something that people will come back and watch. If we when we protested against the Super League, we still went to games. When United are protesting against the Glazers, they still go to games. No matter what happens, people are still going to come back for football, and they're still going to want to invest in the product. And Hassan, before we go back to the Mo Salah talk really quick, because this is quite interesting, to be fair. I mean, what's your thoughts with regards to the money that's in football nowadays? Is it something that's destroying the game in a way, or is it something it's a good thing for the sport, but it's just not being used in a very smart way sometimes?
Yeah, the thing you said, it's not maybe used in a smart way, because the FAs, the governing bodies, are not consulting the clubs as much, and maybe like Real Madrid president and all these, there's need more money for themselves. So that is why they have brought up this idea of Super League, that we may control the way we play, and the clubs are managed. So this is a struggle between the rich. All the small teams will be very difficult for them to manage, because maybe the bigger clubs will buy more players and have bigger squads, but the small teams will have to be in a great trouble. So it's uh, um, it's a thing. It's really complex, but for us, we just need good competitions and good. Uh, the first thing is this safety of our players, that they are looked after as much. But maybe we have to cope.
Yeah, and you talked about the quality of the league. We just want to see good football, and unfortunately, because Mo Salah is injured for we don't know how long. We don't know if it's a week. We don't know if it's a month. We don't know what's happening with the situation. The Premier League is going to see a huge drop off in quality. Now, Willem, I'll go to you first with this. How do we cope? We're coping at the moment with no Mo Salah, but let's be honest, we haven't been significantly tested, nor do we really have a significant test as such until we get to Arsenal and Chelsea. But how do we cope without Mo Salah if he is injured for a significant period of time? What's the way around it?
If he is truly out for a significant period of time, so 2 to 3 months, I think that will. I think we are interested in Bakayoko for the summer, to kind of get him in and build him up as an understudy for Mo coming in. And if we do end up getting the news now that he would be out for the next 2-3 months, I could see us accelerate that deal purely more due to the necessity from it. I'm not going to lie, for my kind of feeling on the whole injury, seeing how Mo was on the bench yesterday immediately after coming off. He was standing around. He was very active from the bench as well. Didn't look too concerned in the mixed zone after the game and stuff and everything. The coach isn't too concerned. I think it's one of them where he's probably definitely missing their last group game, which for Egypt is a massive game, because if they lose, they are guaranteed. Even a draw is probably enough for them to go out. So, and I have no idea. Did Cape Verde win today, or did they lose? Or
I will have a look now for you,
because it depends on what happened there. That will define Egypt's chances.
So Cape Verde won 3-0.
3-0. All right.
Against Mozambique.
Okay, well then it really depends on Egypt, because it means now that Egypt will have to get a result. And even though Mozambique are qualified, it's one of them where it's like it's easier said than done, especially in these kind of tournaments. You get it all the time where it's like there's one team which is dangling in third. They need a win to kind of go through. And then they're playing against the one that's already qualified. They think, oh, well, it should be quite easy. Cape Verde probably won't be given the 4-1. And then it always ends up being one of them games where It just something weird ends up happening and nothing goes as expected. So it really depends on it. I think he'll definitely he'll be out for that game. And I think as well, that's also why they're kind of still leaving it up in the air, because if they do go through, obviously, I think they're just going to take it game by game. And I think that's also going to be a frustrating thing for Liverpool if Egypt do continue in the tournament, that I don't think they'll be getting a fully clear, medical report kind of thing. I'll just leave it at that. But they won't be getting a clear indication of what the extent of the injury is.
It'll be very similar to when Brazil in the 2014 World Cup, when I think it was Neymar got injured, or Neymar had like little niggling injuries, and they kept forcing him back into the team because he was their talisman. So they were just trying to rush him back, and ultimately he suffered a really bad injury. Paul Lindo says, Willem Bakayoko for 30 million or Michael Elise for 50 million. I'm gonna get your thoughts on this, and then I want to get yours, Hassan, on this. Willem, which one are you picking?
I'm actually picking Bakayoko, but also due to the fact that Elise does have quite some injury issues as well in general. He's a very good player, don't get me wrong, and obviously he's Premier League proven, unlike Bakayoko. But Bakayoko, I mean, in my opinion, very smartly rejected Brentford last summer to stay at PSV, get some of that Champions League football experience coming in, and has really kind of
That was just a weird coincidence. Sorry, I didn't even mean that. That was just a weird coincidence.
It's all good, mate. It happens. I think he's also really developed himself into a proper player this time. Like he's not as much of a goal scorer as Mo Salah is, but his assist tally is unreal. It's madness, and it's not just the Eredivisie he's doing it, and he's also been doing it in Europe now. Whereas you can't necessarily say that Elise has that European experience. Bakayoko's also a couple of years younger, because Bakayoko's only 20, and I think Elise is 22, 23. I mean, it's not a massive difference, obviously. But I would be taking that. I don't think we'll get him for 30 million, though. If we're going to get him in January, PSV will ask for about 45 to 50, mate. We'll be close to 35 in the summer.
Sam, which one are you taking out of the two, Bakayoko or Michael Elise?
Yeah, I think it was reported that Olise has a release clause, and the way we deal, we look for the release clauses because it is much easier to deal with, because we have to go for the player and ask him if he's interested, and if he's interested, we trigger the release clause. So it's easier to deal with the club as well. And Olise also rejected Chelsea. He maybe for me, I think he has a higher ceiling than Bakayoko, but the injury issue is also a concern for me. So, but as you said earlier, we will trust our recruitment department and Klopp. Whatever decision they make will be the best for us.
But by the way, can I just follow you up on that, Hassan? Because I actually have a very fun fact about specifically PSV on this. PSV, from like a sponsor deal that they've done about 9 years ago. I was going to say million years. Years ago. It might not be a sponsor deal, by the way, but some kind of different financial deal they've done. PSV start off every season with a 30 million euro loss. And that's also why Gakpo only ended up going for about 37 million pounds, 38 million pounds when we signed him at the end, because PSV at the start of each season normally need to sell off a player around that value to even get on a break-even point. The thing is, obviously, PSV have sold a lot of players over the years, but normally, if you look at their transfers over the years, they never tend to really go higher than a £40, maybe £45 million fee. Because they also just want to make sure that they get their, they are basically able to balance their books and then continue with their like more regular transfers that they do, where they, for example, they get back Irving Lozano for like 5 million this summer or something like that, and then Luke de Jong came over from a free on a free 2 years ago. Like they really do these kind of deals around to build up their squad along with their youth system, and then often these transfers stay at those fees because they just need that financial demand, which again, it could be the case around this year now, maybe next year, that maybe finally goes. But I know for a fact that has been a situation with PSV for a long time. So I don't think it will be like an extortionate negotiation that would be going on with them. But I think it's more as in like if you want him now, you're paying a little bit more.
Yeah.
It does make sense, actually. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but
go on, Hassan.
yeah, but if like Gapco, United were going all out for him, so we saw the opportunity that we could convince him, and he agreed. So we went for him. If something similar happens in this window, maybe we'll go for him. But in the summer, there will be a bidding war. That's my view because maybe more clubs will be in, though. So PSV will sell him to the highest bidder.
Well, you mentioned Michael Olise before about his release clause. His release clause was 60 million euros. Now, 60 million pounds. I keep getting them mixed up, but yeah, his release clause is about 60 million pounds. And to be honest, I wouldn't be entirely against it. I know it's not. This is only with the preface of say Mo Salah does leave. I understand Michael Olise's got a lot of injury issues, but Canate had lots of injury issues, and we still brought him in. He still has them every now and then, but I'd rather have Canate than not have him. You know, we have a history of signing players who, you know, they can struggle at the club they're at, both physically and statistically. And Elise's only got something really low, which like at 9 goals and 17 assists in 72 Premier League games. Diogo Jota, when we signed him, wasn't the most prolific player in the world. Mo Salah was at Chelsea. He was dreadful. You know, we as a club tend to bring these players in who are diamonds in the rough, but they just haven't been polished yet. And they sort of, we make them better than they are. And I think Elise is one of those players who everyone wants him at the moment. I think there's a real talent there. And if not him, there's other players in that Crystal Palace team we could definitely be looking at. Now, as I say, Salah's injury, we don't know the real extent of it yet. Nothing has come out, so there's not a huge amount to touch on. But ideally, if we go through to the Carabao Cup final, we need Mo Salah there. If Salah is out, say he's out until that final, say he is out until the end of February, and I'll go to you, Hassan, and then I'll go to Willem. Who of our attacking players fills that right wing role until Salah's back? You can't bring someone in, just who do we have at the moment who would go in that position?
For me, I think we'll shuffle around. Maybe we'll try with Elliot, and Soboslai can also fill in that place. So it will be Elliot, and we'll play Nunes and Diaz, who can swap on these positions. I don't know when Doak is coming back. So it will be a shuffle around until Salah is back. And I'm optimistic or something, but I think Salah's injury is not that bad. If it was so bad, he would have been he will be back at the training ground. He will be back in Liverpool for the treatment. So I think the best scenario, maybe we are selfish, but he misses the last game and they are out, and Salah is back and he's not that serious, and he's back in a week or two.
Before we get on to you, Willem, Michael Ramsey, thank you so much for the $2. Really, really is appreciated. And he says only Diaz can go there. Now, I mean, after that Arsenal game, it's not a bad shout. On the right-hand side, Diaz really shined in that match.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. For me, actually, I was going to say it would be a mix-up between Elliot and Diaz, and I would just kind of keep it at the point of whoever's in the better form on the right wing, you give them their run for their money. I get Hassan with his Szoboszlai point, but I think we currently just have still too many midfielders out to be able to have the luxury of also playing Szoboszlai on the right-hand side when we also just really need him in midfield. Because so I think that is probably just the way to go right now. Also, assuming we're not bringing anyone in, I just really don't see who else are a viable option. I think Dog's probably still out for about another month or two because he got injured quite a bit after the other long-term injuries for about 2-3 months. So it would be between them. I don't think he'll be playing. Well, I mean, I don't think, but again, I could be completely wrong here because Klopp can just turn it around. I don't think Nunes will be playing on the right, but it's more because I feel like his threat, especially lately, has been coming more from the left wing necessarily than the more centrally or from the right hand side. So I think we'll be looking more to stick him around there. And to be fair, I think that's perfectly fine because I actually think right now without Salah, our best way of playing has been with Nunes on the left, Diaz on the right, and you can take a pick of Gakpo and Jota down the middle because to be fair, I think both have been really like Jota since coming back from the injury, he's looked solid. And from Gakpo, when he in the games that we've played the last couple of weeks, when he gets taken out of midfield and he gets put in that centre forward role, he's brilliant as well. So yeah, I think we've got plenty of options at least to move around the front three. But ideally, I would be keeping it to Diaz or Elliott on the right hand side.
I think you've hit the nail right on the head there. I'll give my thoughts on in a second. Paul Linder says, which of the front four have the best left foot? He thinks it's Lucho. I personally think it's Gakpo. I think Gakpo is a bit more technically well versed in that situation than Diaz is. I might be wrong off base, but he has scored a couple goals with his left foot, and he's a technically, I think, better player than Diaz. I think Diaz is a more sort of not a physical specimen, but he's a bit more of a direct kind of tricky winger, whereas I think Gakpo is a technically more gifted kind of player. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it needs to be Diaz on the right, Gakpo in the middle playing that false nine role, providing space and depth, space in behind for Diaz, and more importantly, Nunez. Because when Nunez is on the left, he's got free license to do what he wants. If he wants to cut inside and shoot, go for it. If you want to beat a defender for pace, go for it. If you want to go to the byline and put it back across like he did in the cup game against Fulham, go for it. He has free reign, and when he's in the middle, I think the pressure gets to him because he has to be the goal scorer. When he's on the wing and he can just release all that chaos and do whatever he pleases, I think that benefits him massively. So I completely agree. Hassan, I want to get your thoughts on this one. Once again, Michael, thank you for $2. Really is appreciated, man. Don't want to see Jota on the pitch until Chelsea. I mean, what are your thoughts on Jota, Hassan? I mean, Michael, if you want to follow that up afterwards, you don't have to pay, by the way. I will read it out regardless. I'm not saying give us more money. I'm saying if you want to comment and say why, feel free. But yeah, I mean, Hassan, what are your thoughts on Jota? Because I think he's been class since recently.
Yeah, he has been class, especially coming after in the substitution in the last minutes when the defenses are tired and the game has opened up. I think maybe we'll start off with Capco, and when the game is in the last 30-20 minutes, we can bring him in, who can because I think he is the best finisher we have now. Uh, 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 he's really cool in the penalty area. Everyone else seems to take the extra touch or maybe shoots. He only shoots when he's really sure that he will score. So I think he has been brilliant, and we cannot afford to lock him up till Chelsea. We'll have to shuffle up because of Salah not being there. So some game Jota will start and some Gakpo will start.
I suppose that's a sort of good problem to have where everyone's so diverse and they can all play a magnitude of positions and different roles that we don't know who's going to start. Whereas back in the day, it was Mane, Firmino, Salah, and then you've got Shaqiri and Origi who can come on. There's a chat that I'm putting up just saying if everyone wants to comment who they think should start on the left wing, just say Nunez or Jota. Just let us know in the comments down below. Now, there's a few bits I've saved question-wise. We're going to go to Willem. Go to you first with one. So there's one here that says, I'd personally say Jota is the best left foot than Gakpo, followed by Diaz, but I'd much prefer Diaz on the right. He looked sharp the other week. I didn't get the left foot question off you. I don't know if you answered it or not. Who do you think has the best left foot of the attacking front line?
I agree with it. And obviously, we're assuming left foot as a weak foot and not not as their strong
Yeah.
foot. But I agree with Jack's comment that it's for me it's Jota as well. Like, and along with what Hassan said about him being our best finisher, I mean, yeah, there's a reason I call him Slutter instead of Jota, because he just slots it away every time. He's brilliant. But he does genuinely also have his best. He does have the best weak foot, I think, out of the lot of them.
Well, Michael has followed up. Thank you for doing so, by the way. Have to protect him because he's too injury prone. Chelsea and Arsenal are too important in the title chase. I mean, Willem and Hassan. I'll go Willem and then I'll go you, Hassan. Is that basically saying that Jota, in a way, is our most valuable asset now that Salah's not there? Is that a bit of a... Am I reading too much into that, or is that, is Jota so important that we have to protect them in these smaller games, so to speak?
I mean, it's one of them where it's like, I think value-wise, because they're all so versatile and different, I think that value-wise, they're actually all very close to each other, from Gakpo, Jota, Nunes, and Diaz. Obviously, some of the ages will make that valuation vary between them.
Yeah.
But he's definitely one of our most valuable assets. But our whole front line is a valuable asset. So that is also just kind of the whole thing that does come with it. Yeah, so I forgot the rest of it. So it was whether he's the most valuable asset, and then what else was it again?
No, it's just that, like, do we need to be protecting him from these smaller games ready for the Chelsea's and Arsenal's?
Yeah. I mean, I do see the point on it. I think, arguably, for this upcoming game, I mean, to be fair, if I had to make a starting prediction line for Sunday, or at least the one that I would want, I would have Nunes, Gakpo, and Diaz starting, and Jota coming off the bench. Also, but that's also more due to the fact that he's still quite recently come back from his other injury, so I don't want to also immediately force him into playing too many minutes. And I mean, on paper, Bournemouth is our easier game, but honestly, we seem to always draw against Chelsea, and Arsenal. Arsenal, it's a tough game. It can go anyway. But Bournemouth away is not an easy one. It's a place where we have struggled quite a couple of times, so I wouldn't take that game lightly anyway. But I mean, look, if we're going to go into a title challenge with City, any game's valuable. So it doesn't matter who we're playing. We're going to have to try and get the maximum amount of points from it, because they're going to go on that inevitable run.
I mean, they might be doing it now. Abdul says, apparently we don't need a left winger because Diaz is on the right, Jota's on the right, and Nunez is in the middle. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. It's going to catch the defenders unaware, let's be honest. So, Hassan, I want to get your thoughts on this. What is the best front three that we should be utilising for these games if there is no Mo Salah? Who's your starting front three? And explain why as well, why those players have been picked for those positions to start the match.
Yeah, follow up to the last question. For me, I think Klopp picks the players who are the best form, who are in the best performing in the practice sessions. So he'll always pick the players game by game. He will not protect a player that he'll use him in the big games. So I don't think we'll do that. And for me, as we discussed earlier, Nunes and Diaz has to start, and we can shuffle between Gapco and Jota in the middle. So it in this center forward, it will be either Gapco or Jota, and Nunes and Diaz will be on the right and left.
Right. One last one then, guys, just before we do shoot. So Jota and Diaz missed last season, cost us top four. I mean, it is technically true. I mean, do we have to be a bit more cautious now that what was that? Sorry, go on.
No, there were many other things as well. Our midfield was too old. We have defensive problems.
We had
It
no
was
legs in midfield as well. To be fair, like I think we had Fabinho who was moving around like a plank, and we had Henderson who literally just. I mean, it's true. Like, look, I love the guy,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he
yeah.
lost all of his movement last year. Like he was stiff as a plank. That was it. So like, there was nothing else coming
no,
from it, and
yeah.
Hendo was
Nothing.
just past his prime as well. So that all played a factor.
I mean, I did a video on my own channel about Jordan Henderson. If anyone wants to, there's a bit of a cheeky shout out to myself there for filling in for Stephen tonight. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Fabinho is a player who would have benefited massively from having the midfielders we've got this season in front of him. And I think he maybe wouldn't have had to have moved as much this season as we expect them to last season. He could have just been the solid, just stay where you are, no nonsense CDM, while he had Szoboszlai and McAllister and Jones and Elliott doing the running for him. And I think Fabinho could have benefited massively this season from having them. And I personally would have liked to have seen him stay. I don't know if I'm in the minority or the majority there, but hey ho. I mean, it is what it is. Just before we do shoot, guys, it's been a chaotic stream, to say the least. There's been a swear word which shouldn't have been said. Shame on you, Willem. There's been lateness. Thank you, Hassan.
And a signal for me as well that I shouldn't have done.
It's fine. It's fine. Look, we're live. Do you know what I mean? Worse things have happened live. We've all seen Man United. Worse things happen live. Now, we are going to shoot a few bits to go through, guys. Please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. We want to get to 10K within the next month. We are organising the 10K special. So please, if you want to see that, make sure you do it. There is also streams every single day, 7:30 UK time. There's also the 2 a.m. UK time stream for the Americans. Really, really fun. I've done it a few times. It's a bit chilled out. It's a laugh. Also, if you do want to get involved in some Liverpool talk this weekend, if any of you follow James Lawrence Orkoff, you can see me on there at 7:30 p.m. on Sunday. It's a Twitter space, so please make sure to get involved and you can get your voice heard and speak out. And yeah, just make sure you do subscribe to the channel. There is a lot of exciting content coming out that we've got planned. So really, just tune in for that. Willem and Hassan, thank you both so much for coming on. It really, really is appreciated. You've been brilliant. Hassan, I thought you were in a different room at first when you came back. I won't lie. I saw the light on. I thought you were in a different room altogether. But yeah, thank you for sticking with it. It really is appreciated. You've both been brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and we will see you in the next